M.A.T.S.U as an acronym, it means making art together, supporting unity.
And that's why I love the word, the acronym, because making, you can see it. You can actually, that is a unity thing. When someone is making something, 3 people could be standing there, they could have different opinion what they're making, but they are all in agreement, they're making something.
So I found making art together, supporting unity was super powerful for these people to be able to get together and share in their self-expression.
And then the second one, if they're making together, you can see that. You can see they're making it together, they're collaborating. So that person's bringing something, that other person's bringing something, and then that's the uniqueness. And if they know who they are, they're bringing something, they're bringing gold.
And art, I always define as your originality. You can't go out and buy this art anywhere. You can't even find it, you can't exchange it, you can only express it from yourself. So that is the basis of how I see art in its originality.
Then making art together, whoa! And to me, I define art as your original self.
Just being in the space together to express themselves and express their inner wealth, their genuine, supreme being inside themselves. So once again, going back to making art together, supporting unity. So if I'm making, I can see that. If I'm making art, I know if it's original art that I've never seen before, then I'm making art, and I'm making art together. I can see a social aspect to it of several people getting together making art. And the last one is supporting unity. And unity is basically supporting each other to encourage each other, inspire each other to live our purpose and go out and know who we truly are.
Supporting unity, we can see that. Right? That means we all have incredible public health because we can be together, right? That's what COVID showed. We're all not healthy. We can't be together. Even the unseeable, health, right? We can be together because we're more centered. We know who we are. We're not living in fear and judgment and all those things that come from when we don't know ourselves, right? And then supporting unity, we know it because it brings in the diversity. It deals with the public health. It deals with the social awareness.
So, again, the together is the piece, right? So, what we know about traumatic stress and trauma is it's isolating. It doesn't matter if you're in a room full of 1,000 people. It doesn't. You feel different. And this weird thing happens. Our whole community went through something like once in 100 years. And so now it didn't level the playing field, but it leveled the playing field for those people who never really knew what struggle was, who never knew what their identity in their community was. Suddenly that community is gone and they see it and they feel it. So we all have a little bit of a sense of struggle now in a way that we didn't. But when you're in recovery from disasters, that unity lasts only a certain amount of time. And what happens is the community can fracture and pull apart even farther. Doing together, regardless of what it's producing, again, that's what we look at a lot of what students need and make these proclamations we know, but they definitely need time together, and they need time where there's no pressure and they're safe.
The great gift of the M.A.T.S.U project is redefining the way an artist works in the community. Redefining how even an artist works in the educational system. The ability to come together and really show an example and inspire more than teach, facilitate. And so the gift of the M.A.T.S.U project is to know that there are artists like me, Grace, to be able to share this with all kinds of communities worldwide. To be able to go in and see an artist what they do and show them how they can be the scaffolding for any of these people that have shut down their emotions. They're not expressing themselves, not finding their genuine, divine self inside themselves. It was amazing to just kind of let them go through that process, really be there for them, be an artist, being able to, if they can't draw something, I could draw it for them, and then they could watercolor it. That started happening. Started showing them that what they were painting and drawing, I could animate and showed them how to do that. And so it was really incredible to be a residency artist, an artist, not a teaching artist, an artist that was involved in the process of making art in the community.
My name is Mike Crum, technology teacher. Here to talk a little bit about the M.A.T.S.U project and Tazuo. Tazuo had a huge impact on me when I was teaching, in that project, the M.A.T.S.U project and Tazuo, made me approach what I did in the classroom differently. They showed me a new way to interact with kids, and it changed my perception, my self-perception as a teacher, and transformed me from going to work into absolutely waking up every single day excited about going and working with kids. Integrating art with what we normally do in the classroom, with all different aspects of doing art through technology as well as traditional mediums. I felt as though, and feel as though, I never worked a day as a teacher after incorporating what I learned from Tazuo.
And so what we started to see with the M.A.T.S.U project, and that's where cultural bearers come in, and the diversity of who we are, and the artist I am. We walk into the room, and we're not teachers, we're not facilitating a lesson, we're not, have any goal, or we're not going to measure you, grade you for what you're going to do. We're going to allow you to just splash that watercolor, right, and draw, and be able to speak, even do voice acting, even if you're, just let it out.
We're very diverse, so when we come into the space, we are cultural bearers because we bring an example. And especially in our area, we have a lot of Hmong and Asian, and then a lot of the Black community is very minimal. So being able to see another artist or a culture bearer or someone in the project walk into the room and inspire them.
You're walking into communities where if I walk in, am I representative? Probably not. Do I know my stuff? Am I welcome in those spaces? Usually, but that's not the same. So even if you have one brown boy or girl, black boy or girl, mom boy or girl in there, one, and they see y'all standing up there, that is a difference.
As artists, to be able to be cultural bearers and be who exactly we be in social environments, not mask ourselves, not pretend, be who we be and express ourselves and give that gift and that scaffolding to all the participants to guide them.
I really feel that using art in the classroom helps reach those kids that have come from such diverse backgrounds. And the students that I worked with came from some very single-family homes and had some really serious issues in the classroom. Incorporating the art in the classroom gave those students an outlet that they normally wouldn't have gotten through traditional classrooms. Art allowed those students to open up and express themselves, get more comfortable in their own skin, and expressing themselves in a creative manner, which kept them coming to school and made them much happier people in the classroom.
Part of us winning the grant is we had to do this thing called the Healthy Index. And in the Healthy Index, it showed us where the communities are lacking in certain social things to do with environmental disasters, to do with public health, with social safety issues, and all the way down to, voting and participating in the community. And of course, in Butte County, there's a lot of broken homes and people who live in situations that are not ideally good for them. And so their mental health and even their physical health, they have a lot of challenges.
And where I'm speaking to you from right now is on the ridge of the beautiful Sierra Nevada mountains. But behind me right now, there's a whole string of these lots. Because in 2018, right up the road here, all the residents of Paradise found themselves locked out of their houses. And if you know the news, it was all over the world. The wildfire came through here and devastated the whole entire area, all the way back in this canyon right back here and all the home. But it was tragic, and throughout this whole area, a lot of the residents have relocated to Oroville and Palermo and Chico, and a lot of them have come back to Paradise. And so what we're doing with the M.A.T.S.U project is we're bringing the awareness to these communities how art can help heal trauma from natural disasters, heal trauma from things like COVID-19, and just the ability to express yourself from an original standpoint.
Today I woke to the endless sky of possibilities. I saw maroon ashes reflecting a sunrise future. It looked like a burning fire in the sky, a phoenix flying out of the ashes of the campfire. The flames and ashes are big, like cows are brown, like a block of black dirt. The sky is big and as blue as the ocean to ocean. It's as beautiful as the Sierra Buttes. It's just so beautiful, this blue. The house is blue cover like the sky outside the ocean. Denali, Trump is orange like flames burning through the rebirth. It rises again forever in this cycle alone.
Especially after the pandemic, art gives students a way to express themselves, gives them an outlet, a creative outlet from being locked up.
In regards to COVID-19, a lot of terrible and disastrous things came out of it. But this is a positive thing. The M.A.T.S.U project really emerged out of COVID. Because if you think about it, the whole thing of COVID shut everything down, all the way down to ourselves. Our humanware got shut down, like unplugged. And so we didn't express ourselves. We couldn't even express ourselves together. We couldn't join in the social. And so the M.A.T.S.U project came out of that, and it allowed even the legislators, the senators, the mayor, all that to even see that we have to give back to the community. You know, come out of this thing stronger at another level. And the M.A.T.S.U project allowed us to do that.
Anything that brings the student who's experiencing that back into now is a good thing. The trouble we have, and the trouble with traumatic stress, especially if things are ongoing for a kid, is there are not a lot of places and times where they can do that confidently. They don't feel safe enough to do that. So they're on alert or they're completely shut down. So, you know, that's what I saw happen, and I think that's what you get when you engage music and art and you know, literacy and poetry and creation with pain and with suffering and with, is that it matches well with the idea of safety.
And the amazing thing starts happening, right, when you start doing the shapes and 3D shapes, because you really start to bring form. So you'll see a lot of individuals be, whoa, that's cool, and they're sharing with each other. And I believe what's happening right there is really dealing with any trauma, because trauma is the unknown, when you feel disconnected from the world. After COVID-19 and the pandemic, where everything got shut down, and I believe everyone's emotions and being got shut down. So I think the perfect remedy was the arts.
They're able to smile a little bigger and a little brighter, and it's all because they've expressed themselves through art.
Creating art, or working with my hands, or using my body in sort of a, what we call bilateral or left-right rhythmic way, it is so good for their system. It's so good for that feeling of safety.
And so a lot of the participants were shut down at the SU Center, and I would just do the writing exercises. A lot of them would participate in that. A lot of them would pause, and I think it was that social thing again. That's where making art together, supporting unity is very powerful, because they would stop and go, oh, I don't know what to write. And I could see their eyes jet back and forth and kind of getting judged by the whole room. But since we do the exercise where we only reveal one line and then we allow them to see another line, I saw them looking around, and even if it didn't make any sense, they put it down. But that's what's so amazing about the collaborative poetry writing and the collaborative poetry speaking, is basically you see that we are all unified in that language and the experience of what we're doing there.
And I think what your program can do, what a lot of these programs can do, especially around art and music, is to take the metrics away and just say, no, it doesn't matter. I don't care if you just take this and just slap your hand down on it. That sort of fear of novelty, fear of mistake, fear of something I don't know, like you mentioned on one of those videos, the white paper. For people who don't see themselves as artists, that white paper is terrifying. It's just like, what do you want me to do? So I think that alone, aside from trauma, aside from traumatic stress, is incredibly healing for most, if not all kids, right?
And that's where a lot of my experience with the arts and integrating the arts came in, because I saw this was a part to integrate the arts and allow them to go into that first step. A lot of people in the world right now are not getting the opportunity, which is the catharsis, the letting go, the opening up and releasing.
So then you have to say, well, what does expression look like in a 4, 5, 6, 7, 8-year-old? It looks like play, art, and the themes that arise within that. No matter what anybody's doing, they will tell their story in a medium that they're not familiar with.
Of the poetry, which is the form, what I call the form of what you're expressing. You start to put it in an original form, because I believe poetry, in its simplest definition, is just the originality of language. You don't got to follow all the rules. You don't got to put them in a certain way. And if you think about it in society, right, in all our social systems, to keep orderly, it's always got to be in a certain way. So poetry, you can just combine it any way you want, and then it has a deeper meaning. And when you do it together, you start to see the connections, and you don't separate yourself, because once again, I believe trauma is just you separating from yourself and from the world.
Anytime you can engage a student in the most base form of that foundation, which is like sensory, you're engaging a part of their brain that needs to be engaged. You use the metaphor of being stuck. Traumatic stress is being stuck. It's a pattern. It's a loop. Your body and your brain really kind of screw up the idea of what's here and now and what's there and then, right? That's even more complex for if you're a kid.
Art allows us to think in an abstract way, which to me is freedom. It doesn't put all these constructs that me as an adult I find at the DMV, I find at the tax office, I find even going to the post office, I even find going to the grocery store. So art is definitely a medium that allows you to be uniquely yourself.
If I never wrote a song and I just start improvising, that song 100% is going to be some version of my own story.
What should I do? I do not even know. What should...
Every human being's like that, right? So for kids who can't get near that information, they can't verbalize it, it is critical that they have those chances to express. I don't care if it is dark, I don't care if it's light, I don't care if it's what it is. That opportunity has to be there.
Is the social poem. To be able to write with each other. Even just one line, one image, something original, something you've never seen before, and we put it out. And it always begins with that word. When we put down the poems, we write together.
Expression can't have any sort of, it's got to have rules, but to me, it can, what's the right word, like surpass sort of the boundaries of all the other stuff that kids are being forced to deal with. And I don't think there's a lot of places for them to do that. They see other people doing it, social media and everywhere else, but like, not every kid in our county has the opportunity to sit in front of a computer and loop beats. They're just not going to have that opportunity. Period. So, when we talk about equity, this is how you do it. You just do things. You do it. This is a need. I believe in this. This is the way we can help heal. We're going to continue to do it. So I think the role that art plays is expression. Varied expression.
Because if you think about it, in these times we live, one of the most important things, I believe, especially for youth, but I believe it's for all of us, is what I call visual literacy. The ability to know how that fantastical, incredible commercial about that sugary cereal, how they made it.
The first 2 years of life especially are like so important. What is that relationship I'm having? That scaffolds, meaning it builds the building blocks of that individual's ability to A, see the world as a safe place, to see human beings as safe, but also to actually be able to regulate their internal state. We often see students that scaffolding was missed. So they have difficulty with attaching sometimes. They have, and most kids, regardless of trauma, after COVID had difficulty regulating. So when we talk about scaffolding, we talk about like, what are the steps, what are the skills that often our most difficult students are demonstrating. We'll see it as will, like they're doing that because of this, or they're choosing to, and it's like, that it doesn't quite line up with neuroscience and what we know about the brain. The reality is like most kids are just trying to regulate themselves.
And since I was an artist, I could facilitate more than tell them what to do or trying to get them to make the mark, right? And so I'd be right there and I'd see them drawing this thing and I'd encourage them to draw it more, and I encourage them. I could even put my pen and brush in there and help them shape the form. And I knew all along I was going to cut that out and I was going to turn that into a paper character, and then I was going to bring the overhead camera and I was going to animate.
So scaffolding is the idea that we don't just expect things. We teach them, we engage, we collaborate, which is the antithesis of what trauma does, right? Trauma robs that and it isolates you.
So art definitely allows an individual to think abstract. And most of you would say, what is that good for? You know, that's not going to help you fill out a bill, fill out an application for a job, right? Book your airplane, or whatever you need to do to civically and communically engage in your world, right? But what it does is it gets down to the heart and soul of life. Life is a mystery. It's a beautiful mystery. And most of us have all these constructs from all these stories that were told over centuries about how we live, how we die, how we live most of all. You know, we went from hunters and gatherers to these high-tech cities to be able to see beyond the stars. And this is where art helps you think abstract.
The reality is it's very hard when you have kids who are in wildly different environments, wildly different amounts of stress, wildly different amounts of mental health difficulties, resources. It's hard to measure what's helping them. So I think when I think about impact, I think about two things. One is, what are they saying in the moment? And then the other is, can we pick one thing we believe this can help that's more tied to like school? So school has a real problem with connectedness. Kids don't feel connected to school, or the numbers are troubling. Kids can feel hopeless, right? So there are also questions you can ask just about, how does this feel? And then people who are around them, do you notice any shift in them?
We did several youth centers in the community, and one of them had a very diverse background. And a lot of them really had a lot of either physical disabilities or mental disabilities, and I watched art really open them up. From the real youngsters who really loved to paint and draw, but it seemed, once again, gave a little bit of that scaffolding, that guidance, that way of an artist being a part of the community, not being a teacher up there where I gotta take roll and see that they're making all the marks and everything. No, I became part of the marks, and so I experienced a lot of the children. I got to do performance poems with them. We dealt with public health issues like COVID and expressing themselves, and being able to see a lot of them move in from just painting and drawing and expressing themselves and splattering paint all over the page and chaos with their pen and their ink to starting to find some form.
To have an artist be here to help you guys in your creativity and your exploration of the many different kinds of art that there is. That's been my heart for over a decade. And so this day we've been waiting for a really, really long time. To focus on their mental health and to provide opportunities for them to learn and understand what art is, but also what art isn't.
Sean got to use the scissors first, okay? He's doing the animation. Then we'll get... Ready to watch it? Yeah! Look at that! Isn't that cool? Yeah! Isn't that way cool? That was awesome! High five! I found out that one of the participants was already doing a lot of pixel art and animation, and when she came in and worked with us, she basically started doing this amazing animation, and it was kind of dark and close to a lot of anime and stuff, but the reality of it was super powerful.
There's one, her name is Nyx, and I've known Nyx for about 10 years. Nyx is right in the big room over there. And Nyx was very quiet, not very social, and Nyx would sit with just her iPad and doing little tiny things with the iPad. And I went over and looked, and what Nyx would do is Nyx would zoom all the way in and fix little tiny pixels one at a time, and then zoom out, and it made this really great Japanese animation artwork. And so as I was speaking with Nyx, I think Nyx was in the 6th grade then, I said, Nyx, you're really talented, you should stick with this. You can take everything that you're dealing with in life and you can create a character. That character can live whatever life you want it to. It can wear what it wants. It can be who it wants, identify how it wants. There's total freedom in creativity.
I say that this is probably one of the healthiest outlets that they can have, really and truly. And I think it's something that we struggle with here is we really struggle with teens using their phones a lot. And so to get them to disconnect from the virtual world and like kind of come back to the real world has been really, really nice. And I think that that's way better for their development than to be just connected to their phones. Those are my favorite. Like the lavender, I love those.
Why are you taking my red? You're getting my red all wet.
Miles, what do I do with this?
Wow.
I have no idea what I did.
How'd it make you feel?
Great.
Wow, that's amazing. We need to follow you.
Yeah, y'all need to follow me.
It's gonna be amazing.
Did not turn out how I wanted to.
It's what I've usually used while I've learned this, so it's like kind of initiated.
A little bit, have to do something maybe, I would maybe move the eye just down a little bit, the center. Yeah. Ooh, yeah, there you go. Twice. Yep. Now you can remove. So we did a little bit of hearts.
that weird eye thinking. That is incredible. Basically, this is Percy.
Oh, okay.
Percy expressed, they were starting to talk about vaping, and Percy expressed that her parents were basically addicts, and she grew up in an addict life.
Ooh.
And art helps her express herself.
Percy, yeah. So one of our favorite students, she was hesitant about coming back and participating in art in front of people. She's pretty insecure, and she's had a lot of trauma in her life, and it hasn't stopped yet. It continues to come week after week, month after month. However, when we talked her into coming and giving it a shot, at the end of the day, she came up and gave me a hug. And she's not a two-handed hugger. She's a one-handed arm hugger. And she gave me a two-handed hug and said, thank you for making me go in there, because I just feel so much better, even better than going to therapy. So you see, the contrast that Percy gave to me was that paying outrageous amounts of money for therapy that oftentimes doesn't really work well, or providing opportunities through the M.A.T.S.U project, making art together in unity, and sitting around a table and expressing yourself through art, video, different projects, and different things like that has really allowed her to lay down some of the weight that she has to carry every day.
In these poems, the art, they would express, the depth of what happened with that fire. Not just that it burned up the whole town, ruined their lives, sentiment thing, the things that were still kind of stagnant and suppressed in their mind. They really expressed it and found a way. And then I caught a lot of them just loving swirling colors around and putting paint all over the page and just, seeing that chaos on the outer self. And you could say, you squeezed out all that chaos and that sourness out of yourself. And now you can get down to who you truly are, your purpose, and the sweet side of you, and the beautiful things in life. How does it make you feel?
Whatever comes to my mind. Joyful. If I'm mad, I'll do it to try to be happy or think better thoughts by drawing and painting. But if I'm not drawing or painting, then I'll sketch something every once in a while. Or if I'm happy, I'll just do it to think good things.
So I got to go up to the Paradise Boys and Girls Club. There's 2 or 3 sections of this, and one is in the junior high. And I got to work with these kids that are a lot like the Axiom kids, very lost, searching for themselves, come from very broken homes. And then on top of that, an environmental disaster that really left the public health in a mess. Their mental state, even just looking forward, even looking back. The first kid I met up there really had a grip on how art was expressing himself. Did you go through the fire up here?
Yeah.
How do you think art helps you?
It makes you feel, makes you express your emotions.
That helps you?
Yep.
Bodhi generally only likes to sit there and play Smash. He is always bothering me 10 minutes before Member's Choice. And today, I've never heard him talk so much. I've never heard him really talk about feelings like that, or and really he's one of those that really doesn't participate in programs, but he was all for it today. And I think it was just the pride that he created something and then he got to share it with you. And I think that was really cool. It was really awesome to see. They are learning how to problem solve, even just the small pieces of how do I take care of the watercolor pens. How do I take care of these? How can I use this later? And even some of the techniques that you've shown them, they've used when you're not here, which is pretty cool.
It only goes where the water goes?
Mm-hmm. It's really nice. Okay.
How's art make you feel?
Art, it makes me feel relaxed, and it's just it's peaceful, and I really like it.
Definitely essential life skills. What I've seen with our students is most of them were super, super insecure about making art together in unity, right? But that's where the greatest impact comes from, is doing art together. Anybody can sit in a room isolated and do stuff without judgment or anybody else's opinion or anybody glaring at their paper. That's pretty easy to do. It's hard to sit in a group of 12 to 15 of your peers having them maybe or maybe not judging what you draw, what your voice acting may sound like, what your musical ability is. So what I've seen with our kids is when we got them in here, and then when I see them back out on the floor during the week, they're not afraid to show their art to people. They're not afraid to have a new idea, put it on paper and share it, because they're no longer afraid of somebody not liking what they make. Because it's okay, it's not for everybody. It's something they've created for a specific reason, a specific purpose, and it's not for everybody.
All of their art is on all the walls. Like they've really used their art to express themselves and to also use it as an outlet and to make their environment more pretty. Like this is their club made by them for them. And so that's just one piece that they've been able to use to make this place theirs. Once you got them started, they were really just like, okay, yeah, like I'm all for it. So you can see all the hard work that they did.
So the next exercise, after I have them do the lines, they start to see shapes, right? And everyone knows in the world there's 3 shapes that make up everything, which is the square, the circle, and the triangle, right? Basically, if you combine those and morph them around a little bit, they basically become everything in the world. And so I have them draw like a circle, and then get real small and big and medium. What happens? Everyone's a copy machine, including myself. So I do these exercises daily a lot to basically keep my mind so it's creative and it's original, and I'm doing it my way, you know. I tell them the circles don't got to be perfect. Every time you have a chance to do it again better, and just get into motion and use your whole arm so you can get the circles going and all that, and squares. And of course, the next level, I move into the 3D, so giving dimension, right?
It's actually really funny because I think I've told you a few times, but every time that you've come, like there have been times where they have been chosen to do art with you versus doing video games, which is really big. Like that's huge. And to just see the kids just kind of let go. I feel like a lot of the kids are really scared to fail. They're really scared to try new things. And so that was kind of a little bit of an issue that we had to kind of work through at the beginning. But I mean, now they're super excited. They love to just do it, just pull out different art pieces. And even when you're not here, they've chosen to do a lot more art to just, like, that's something that calms them, especially as they've been doing standardized testing recently. And just dealing with a lot of different stuff. This age is really tough. And so they've used art as an outlet to really just help themselves.
The M.A.T.S.U project is blooming, like a wildflower field opening its curiosity. We lead with every foot forward, collecting, scavenging, rebuilding, and renewing, expressing our steps to recovery. This land we called home is refreshed in mind. Thoughts rise from ashes to elevate this journey back to wellness, where we gather to make art that has never been created in the homes inside our hearts.
At youth centers, we did a lot of group poems where it's just a word, even one word, like, because your originality definitely comes from the frequencies of your voice and how you arrange symbols. And I got to write poems with them, and we wrote poems in that way that I've been talking about, which is basically a collaborative poem. You write one line, you fold it over, and then you write another line, you pass it to the person next to you. And every time I did one in Paradise, even though a lot of the kids were shut down, they would get the paper and joke what they were going to write, or they wrote something really quick and passed it on because they didn't want to let the next person know they wrote that. They wrote something very abstract. You'll see a lot of these poems are presented in the film. Basically, they talk about the fire. And they bring it in a community sense, in a unified sense, that they're very comfortable with what happened. But talking about it, you know, rehashing it, dwelling in that place was not where they wanted to dwell. But they needed to release it, that cathartic. They need to get it out, right? And to kind of find meaning in life, why that happened.
Art is what we make when we've lost all our supplies. It's a summer rain sizzling in the lost embers. Birds sing softly in the empty morning light. A golden peeks through the steel clouds. One ember sings into the light inside the care of creativity, opens the valleys that stay cool in the hearts of paradise.
All the way down to a lot of the students who are very musical. And music also has become something that is a high art, like untouchable. But music's at the basis of who we are. And I believe, poetry is the music of language. And so if you can just get a student to even make choices on a sampling application on an iPad or a computer and allow them to put their own jive and their own groove in there and add it and mix it all up. Another place that the M.A.T.S.U project had the incredible opportunity to work with is called Wind Chime of Chico. And it sits right below the Sierra Nevada mountains, right up there, going up Highway 32, where you start to go up into the Sierra Nevada mountains. And we got to work with which is called the Memory Care Unit. And for most people, this is a very haunting place to go, if anyone's ever experienced that or has loved ones in these places. But as artists, very excited to give an opportunity to these patients that basically, the elderly that have been diagnosed with, they've lost their memory. A lot of the memory at first we saw basically came from trauma, like something had happened in their life or to their loved ones and they just abandoned that inside self. And so one of the first participants that I got to interact with that really inspired me was a gentleman called Jim. And he really enjoyed the watercolor rolling down the page. At first he didn't even paint or draw anything. And I would just show him how watercolor, it gets a color, and he loved the color blue. And see, as an artist, once again, not being a teaching artist, being a collaborating artist in there, when I think of blue, I think of water and the sky. And so the sky is the endless possibilities. It's opening up again, it goes on for endless possibilities of everything. And then the water of the river. And that's the healing, to be able to move on, to get things unstuck and flow it forward. Right? And Jim just loved to paint, but he would meticulously just work on one little part. And he wasn't worried about shading. He wasn't worried about making anything in form. He was just seeing himself being released in that water and that blueness of becoming back to himself. And so one of the ideas we got at Wind Chime is a lot of their brain functions of that structure is gone. They either decided to let it go because it got too traumatic in life, or basically it's just not there anymore. And so I decided, wow, like I've been hearing all these stories. And so I was like, well, I'm a participating artist. We're making art together. So I started, well, I could do the illustration part. And then that would really jog their memories too, their deep emotional memories. And so, and which helping with their trauma, because their main trauma is that they lost their memory and now they're in this care unit where they can't leave. And this leads me to the incredible experience I had with a gentleman named Mario. And he was a new participant. I remember walking in that day and seeing him kind of go around and became very acute to listening to these people and very acute to hearing their deep, emotional, and spirited artistic stories that were inside them, that were emotionally driven, not specifically fact driven, more emotionally driven. And I remember seeing Mario being real fluent, and I noticed that with new participants, new people into the units, right? And he was going around and he was talking to all kinds of, was telling them all about the thing. And then I tuned in, and a lot of his language was memory. He was telling about how he was an adjunct professor up in Eugene, Oregon, where the Ducks are from, and how he loved baseball and football. And then he also went back into his father, and his heritage was Mexican, Hispanic. He started telling me stories about all that. And then that day, I just happened to have an illustration I did of kind of Mexican cuisine, all the different things they use in Mexican food. And I did this nice little design, and I inked it for him. And then we went outside, and I got the incredible opportunity to just sit there with him and talk to him and draw and paint myself and show him he started painting. And he started painting it, and he started really giving feedback of, whoa, this makes me feel really good. And I was like, so tell me more about your life. And I don't think he had a memory issue. I mean, the things that really count, he started telling me all about the Ducks and how he loved the Ducks and how he would go to the stadium, wear his, bright green and orange, yellow colors and get up in the stands, and how he was this professor. And I learned he was a professor of basically philosophy. And he even went into things like, what do you study? He's like, one of the number one things we study of kind of a sociology, philosophical professor is why people kill people. And then he went into all that. And so the next few weeks was very enriching, because every time he came back, I took one of his memories and drew it. One of the things I did is I took the Ducks baseball logo and the football logo and drew it up for him. And I came in and just... art helps with trauma, folks. He started to smile and really enjoy himself, and he knew exactly the right colors to put on the logo, and I don't think he had any memory issues, and we just went on, and it's very cathartic for me, because I lost my father at 10, so it was a very experience of sitting with the elder who I could really enrich his life by making art together with him. And it supported the unity, because we found a lot of our cultural heritages that matched, and that we are American. And working with Mario was one of the most expansive experiences as an artist. So one of the first times I went in wind chime, I was informed that one of the participants in her life was a full-blown working painter and artist. And I didn't get to experience meeting her for the first time. And so that time I went in, we actually got a tour of her room and showed all of her paintings. And there was some fabulous landscapes and portraits, and even a couple abstracts that were phenomenal. She's just a phenomenal painter. And so what I got to experience, something happened. The following weeks when I would go and work at wind chime, Ruth kind of got an attitude. And a lot of her anger came out, and frustration came out. And I see that also as a cathartic stage. She had to go back to that place and see basically that, whatever had shut down her from painting and drawing and putting her in this memory care nursing home, she got to experience socially. And it was a lot of awkward for a lot of us, but I'm sure it was awkward for her. And I believe we left her with some scaffolding, some bridges to get back to who she is. And the best of luck to all those people. But I believe in the M.A.T.S.U project, we did give folks like Ruth another angle, another perspective to find out who she'd be in her later part of life. So Jack would always kind of shift eye at me, and then most of the days you go up and say you want to paint, and that was before we were bringing them images, just allow them to paint and get the color on there. He would say, no, I'm not doing it, I'm not into it. And then he's kind of started hanging out with Ruth, and Ruth was really bitter and not wanting to paint or draw or express herself or write, and it was really interesting. At that point, Jack looked up, he kind of had a little smile on his face, and he asked me for the paint, and we gave him images. And once he did this fishing image that was amazing, and I helped him color it and started to show him the different parts where we could shade it so we could really get the form of the boat and fishing. And I believe truly on a deep part it healed a lot of his trauma, because I asked him in the end, do you like fishing? He said, I love fishing. So might have brought him back to his boyhood and brought him back to that place where he can find peace again in himself. And then toward the end, he started to show us that he was very fluent in watercoloring and could do a lot of blends and shades, and did amazing work on these birds. And it was just incredible to see him go from kind of being really bitter and kind of stand off, especially for me being a male. And he found a place where, when we left one of the last days, he was smiling and thanking us, and he let us have his paintings, and his paintings are great. So Joan and Dawn were an incredible couple, and Joan seemed really coherent, like she was very present, and mainly I felt she was there to support Dawn, because Dawn was drifting and he would sleep a lot. But I had an incredible experience with Dawn where we painted a gnome together. And gnomes are one of my favorite creatures because I make sure they don't have no eyes because they have inner sight, right? And I drew this originally for him, and then I sat there and helped him paint it and shape it, and it's pretty amazing painting, and he had a lot of joy and fun. And it might have helped him with some trauma, but it definitely brought back a memory and allowed him to be free, because at one point he got a snack and he had a spoon, and he started painting with the spoon. So did we stop him? No, we were all like, you know, maybe that's healing something. Like when you're a little kid and your mom's like, you can't paint with a spoon, right? We allowed him to paint, and it was pretty amazing. He giggled and laughed, and we got a great painting out of it. It's incredible. You know, they go through the memory thing, so they're telling you they don't know how to paint, they don't remember this, and they don't remember that. But what I found a lot when I was working with a lot of them, just even talking about the images or what I do and how I paint, how I get inspired. Once again, being an artist, not a teaching artist, being more a facilitator, I got to experience how they basically express themselves in a way that was basically bringing back all kinds of very deep, inspirited memories. Teresa took one of the birds and just started to paint, and didn't need much guidance or anything, and was so focused. And I kept asking her, you know, how is it going? She's all incredible, I'm feeling good. And that's totally opposite. She was always very skittish and very standoffish and kind of judgmental, and not wanting to talk to us or participate. But on this day, she got to paint, and she did the most amazing blends, and I watched her face go through a bunch of emotions. And so we really don't know clinically what happened there, but I believe just taken to that cathartic stage, and then she started to find form, which she definitely had in her life, and it was coming back. And even in that moment, a lot of joy, a lot of focus came out of that. The M.A.T.S.U project is a project that came out of me working in the schools with all age groups, and working in community centers, working in classrooms from kindergartners all the way up to the elders. And I've always been doing some form of art with the community. Even if I just went and did a poetry reading, or I did a performance writing exercise and had the people perform together, or if I taught ink and drawing, basics of drawing, if I taught watercolor, painting, acrylics on canvases, on paper, I would always get the notion that I was helping these people deal with inner knowledge, and you know, what comes with inside is the traumas that happen from the world. The M.A.T.S.U project has given me an incredible opportunity to deliver what I've always believed, and I believe being human, you are an artist. You have lots to express. You have originality inside yourself. It was funded by the California Arts Council, and then managed by the Nevada County Arts Council. And then it came to my county, Butte County, and Friends of the Arts. And basically it's a very unique grant, because it's the first time I've ever seen it framed like this, where basically 80% of the monies go to us as the working artists, and 20% go to all the fees to get everything going, art supplies and gas and all those things. But it was also centered on community, not really going into the places of education, going into the places of community. Because M.A.T.S.U is an acronym, and it stands for Making Art Together Support Unity. And in the community, what that allows us to do is go in and not specifically do an art lesson where we teach people how to paint and draw, or how to play music, or how to dance, or how to sculpt, or even how to animate, or filmmaking. It became Making Art Together Support Unity. The M.A.T.S.U project has given incredible opportunity to all the individuals who participated in it. And the first thing that they find in themselves is that the same brain that basically says I can't draw, I can't dance, I can't sing, basically I can't even express myself in my originality, I don't even know who I am, is the same brain that draws and paints and picks particular words and images in poetry, and then finds the music within himself, the different rhythms, the different melodies, the harmonies.
The thing we don't do well in community and society right now is space and time to express. Straight up, period, plain and simple. We don't do it. I think that's, potentially a huge gift in your program. You're given that, and you're given direction.
Their confidence has gotten so higher. Even we usually do direct draw, and I have multiple meltdowns. But when you're here, for some reason, no one's crying. No one's saying they messed up. No one's saying their artwork is all busted.
So making art together, supporting unity, when I first heard that, I didn't really understand what it meant. So making art together, supporting unity, when I first heard that phrase and it was brought into the Axiom, I was excited to see what it was all about. And what I learned is that every single student, every person has the ability within them to create something brand new from them that nobody else on this planet has the ability to create because they're not that individual. And being able to see that seed of creativity be watered week after week after week as M.A.T.S.U showed up on site to teach and train and encourage our kids. Once I saw them water week after week after week and to see the kids' creativity begin to grow and flourish, not just while they're here, but throughout the rest of the week in our different activities. And unfortunately, sometimes on the bathroom walls, but that's being creative. And so that creativity is so important because our students, especially this generation, they're not aware of who they are. They don't know their identity. And so part of them finding out who they are and who they are as a person, who they are as a friend, as a father, as an aunt, as an uncle, as a brother, as a sister, I believe comes from them exploring their creativity because it really reads true to who they are based on how they create, what they create, and maybe what their creatures are, what they sound like, what they look like, what the interactions are, what the storyline is. All those things really speak to the individual student on who that student is, even if they may not even understand who they are.
Out in the world, it gets shadowed by the industrial world, and we get indoctrinated with all kinds of ideas and thoughts from commercial advertising. That's why visual and media literacy is also very important. And the making art together, supporting you, doing the M.A.T.S.U project together, we see that we express ourselves the same way a billboard does, or these days on the internet, these fancy animated or video commercials, and it allows us to get together and say we express our own art in a very unique way, and it is very valuable.
It becomes art, the presence of a caring, understanding person, they become a necessity for this individual to make it through what they're going through, because we can't stop it from happening. The thing we don't do well in community and society right now is space and time to express. Straight up, period, plain and simple. We don't do it. And so I think that's, potentially a huge gift in your programs. You're given that, and you're given direction.
That's what the M.A.T.S.U project has also shown me. I've seen a lot of individuals in this project just freely start to move the pen around or the paper or write a sentence, and it doesn't even make any sense, right? Especially if we're doing it collaborative, because once again, I'm not a teaching artist, so I'm not really rotely teaching you the skill and this thing you have to do, and then you have to regurgitate it and show me exactly what I showed you. No, we are doing the M.A.T.S.U. We're making art together, supporting unity. And supporting the unity is pulling each one up. So someone's down there a little bit, encourage them, pull them all up. So that's what started to happen in a lot of the project, is a lot of people would just find that cathartic stage and sit in the corner and make, what most people would call a mess. But remember, it's the process. It's making the art together, supporting unity. And in that process, even if just one other individual goes over and encourages and says, that's amazing. And they get inspired, even in that first step, to just let it out. Express yourself, be original. In the same way, I was sitting in the hospital waiting for my father. I started scribbling on back of forms, and started as lines and scribbles, and then I found my heritage, which I didn't even know about a lot. Is a lot of my elders are full-blown artists in all the forms of art, and so started doing that, and then started going, whoa, this little character, I need to write a little story, so I started writing a story. So I bring that directly to the M.A.T.S.U project.
And I was observing in one of our access classrooms, and I think that's when I first encountered this work. And you know, I was there just watching kids, and then y'all came in, and I you know, I've been doing this a long time. It's like 20 years. I've either been working with kids as a therapist or working with systems, and like you get a sense of when like something shifts for students. And I remember in particular them, you know, actually witnessing your art.
The M.A.T.S.U project is nothing new. If you think about us as a human race, before there were any distractions, especially all this digital media, all these screens, all these images, all these moving pictures, all these things, we were out in the environment called Earth. And every day was a festival. And we went and did all the things we need to do, like we do today, to make sure our families are fed, we are nutritious, we are healthy, have our mindsets in good places. But at night, they would gather around the fire pit or the water pit or the well. And basically, everyone would share and express themselves from their angle, their viewpoint, their originality. And they would make art together, supporting unity, to be able to rise the next day to that sunrise and see the abundance and everything that we share and we can contribute from living our purpose and who we are.
I think this is beyond this. Like, I think this is our community. Is art going to help our community? Yeah, I mean, tell me I'm wrong. Nobody's gonna, because we know it's true. So let's do it.
It's because my ADHD. Like, it hurts me physically. The right amount of thing where it starts to create something just makes you feel like an artist.
Being able to identify things in your life that you have to change, things that are super important that you want to keep. Self-knowledge is so very important, and these kids aren't really taught self-knowledge at school that I'm aware of. They're not taught self-knowledge out in the community, and so it's places like Axiom, it's projects like M.A.T.S.U that bring out the best in our kids, bring out the best creativity. Them being able to learn who they are years before we ever did as children, because I mean, for me personally, I was 33 before I started growing up and figuring out who I am. And these kids are getting this opportunity at 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, and it's really gonna set them up for success in their life.
You know, human beings, I won't call them kids or students, they're just little tiny human beings. When you get a bunch of little tiny human beings and they're engaged in something with their community, I mean, that is what we're missing. I mean, it's sad that we have to like call it programs, because this is done in indigenous communities, had been done in communities forever, and we don't. So when I see kids engaged in these multimodal, you know, like art, painting with their fingers, painting with a brush, you know, listening to loops, putting them together, like it's exposure, like from this sort of white traditional way is, you know, they're touching parts of the brain that aren't being exercised any other places. But from a humor perspective, that just feels good. It feels good to listen to beats and be like, I created that. It feels good to animate something. So, again, all that stuff aside, like trauma, you get the kids feeling good for a minute. I don't know why that's not enough for people, but sometimes it isn't, but that's good enough for me.
The M.A.T.S.U project.
Making art together, supporting unity. A phrase given to me by one of my poetry students has now grown into an art movement. One that I had the privilege of experiencing through every being who participated in this project. It will live on, like a lighthouse shining from my heart, guiding everything I do from this moment forward. Born from the simple idea of allowing each individual to express their unique, original self, this project became a circular activity that united us through paint, colors, lines, poetic words, and animated elements. It revealed what true unity can look like when supported by the vital act of making art together. This experience will continue to expand and flow into life through those who stepped into the circle, moved the pen and the paint, added their distinct poetic voices, and expressed the essence of an acronym, M.A.T.S.U.